Hi everyone. We're gonna do Ask Abby. And we're gonna. Oh, I have to take these things off my fridge to look really professional. They're pictures. Oops. They're pictures of my friends' children. I don't know if they'd appreciate me having photos of my friends' children in here. Hi everyone. So, this is Ask Abby, and I realise that you can see me and the back of me, but that's just a pleasure. It's a pleasure having two Ask Abbys today. I've also realised I haven't got my earrings on, so I'm very sorry, guys. Let's make that straight as well. Can't possibly have something out of line on the fridge, for God's sake. Honestly, it's unacceptable, isn't it? So today, Ask Abby. These are questions for the Queen of Construction. And if you remember, my advice is free, but my taste is very expensive. So what are we talking about today? Today, we are talking about wine storage. Now, this is actually going to be a two-parter because you guys who follow me got super excited. You really, like I said, what do you want to know about? And kind of it was defiantly, hi, Sharo, good evening. Kind of a defiant cry of, we want to build wine storage, which is kind of good to know, maybe a little bit worrying. So I'm doing a two-parter because I'm going to talk about the physical building of wine storage. And then next week, I'm going to be talking about the technology that you can use for wine storage. They are two different things, and there is a different price point for them as well. So today is the more accessible price point, and next week is going to be the kind of deluxe. All of this is recorded, so of course you can switch between the two. And as always, if you've got any questions, you can ask me. So we're going to start off with some simple guidelines. Only a small percentage of wines that are consumed in the UK market at the moment are actually designed for the benefit of long-term storage. So when I'm talking about wine storage, it is to do with what you're drinking this year, next year, the year after, but mostly it's about the fact that there is a real benefit of buying wine in bulk. Whether you get your wine from the supermarket, from a trade supplier, from a wine society, Majestic, wherever it may be, you'll find that if you're buying 6 or more bottles, it's better. It's a better cost for you to buy things in that quantity. And that means you have to store the wine somewhere. So this isn't just about people who are buying something from, Berry Brothers, where it's being recommended that you should be, laid down for 5 years. And I was also thinking about other reasons why I stock up with wine. There obviously is, as I said, you see a really good offer. A case of 6 or more is fantastic. You get to a certain age where for your birthday, people say, what do you want? And you just go, bring a bottle, come around, bring a bottle. And you suddenly end up with 30 bottles that you didn't expect. Weddings, I don't know if you've had, or parties, sometimes you have leftover wine from that and you say, okay, I'm going to store that in my home. Black Friday, I buy all of my champagne on a Black Friday because you get the most amazing deals, and then I end up kind of consuming it throughout the year or within like 20 days of Black Friday. It's near Christmas, don't judge me. And of course, if you go on holiday to France or Italy or Spain and you kind of come back with your boot full. So there's loads and loads of reasons why we might need to store wine in our homes. Having wine storage doesn't mean to say that you're a massive wine aficionado. We're going to start with some really simple guidelines, and we're simply going to do good or bad. We're going to start with heat. Heat is bad. You will notice that I'm doing this in my kitchen here. I actually have got a wine fridge behind me. We're not going to be talking about wine fridges today because that's going to come under technical solutions, which we're going to be doing next week. But we are in an environment here. A kitchen is a hot space. You've got the oven, you've got lots of appliances that are giving off heat. So heat, bad. Anything more than 21 degrees C, you get into kind of this idea that the wine can cook. That's for an extended period of time. So if we have this, we've just had this heat wave here in the UK, a short period of time, don't get too hung up on it. But consistently, rooms that are warmer than that, that's not so good for your wine. So heat, bad. Generally 12 is considered about the ideal. So on the flip side now, if we look at cold, and particularly here I'm talking about freezing. So this would be, for example, if you think about using a garage or an outhouse or an unheated space. Anything that could get close to freezing is bad. Come on, we've all put a bottle of wine in the freezer because we've forgotten someone's coming round and we've quickly shoved it in there to get it chilled. And the next day we remember it and it's a beautiful wine fountain coming out the top of the wine in frozen format. So the expansion of the wine when it freezes can push the cork out, it can damage it. So this is really bad. Likewise, massive fluctuations in temperature, also really bad. We're looking for consistency. And I will come on to areas in your home where you will find consistent temperatures. I'm just going to keep going through these good and bads. Dry, very dry. And by this, I'm talking about an environment potentially like a fridge. So this is my main fridge. Should have checked what it looked like inside before I opened that. That's not good either. So we're going to say dry, bad. The reason being the cork that's in your wine, when it's very dry, that cork can contract, enabling air to get into the wine. Air getting into the wine is the thing that ruins the wine. It oxidises it. I am talking to a couple of people on here who are wine aficionados, so let me explain your business to you. So dry, bad. So the humidity, we're looking around 70% is kind of ideal. Don't get hung up about it. If you're keeping your wine in the UK out in the normal space, you're okay. We're talking about Arctic or desert conditions where it's so dry you need to worry about the humidity being too low. And if you are in the tropics, so you are in an environment where the humidity is very high, so we're talking about 85, 90%, then that can have some issues that side as well. If you were in that environment, I would consider listening to the Insta Live next week because we're going to be talking about some technical solutions which will be environments that will control temperature and humidity. For those of you who are in the tropics, Wendy, I'm talking to you. I love you, darling. So humidity basically okay in the UK, as long as it's really, really extreme. Light, these kind of lights, bad. Light from windows, bad. Mostly light from windows bad because if you're in a space that's got windows, then probably you're going to be in a room where the temperature is fluctuating. So we're back into that kind of lack of consistent temperature, which is a bad thing. But also lights, I mean, the reason bottles are not clear glass, red wines particularly, is because that glass is like the sunglasses for the wine. Wine does get affected by light. So we're looking to keep it in consistent light. I'm going to show you some of the beautiful wine storage units that are available for sale. Some of them have got lights incorporated into them. What I would say is if they're LED lights, actually the level of light that's emitted from those is very, very low. There's no temperature that comes with it. So it's okay if you have a display case and it's got some LEDs. But anything that's got incandescent, old style lights, it's really not good. You're getting heat and you're getting light from it. So we want to avoid that. In terms of the storage, you will be able to see from this fridge, I'm going to open it up and the light is going to come on. But that's okay, the light's only on when it's it. You'll see they're always lying on their side. Traditionally, the reason for that is it's good to keep the cork wet. So when they're lying on their side, the wine is up against the cork, keeping the cork moist, stopping the cork from shrinking. I can put my teeth back in. And letting the air in. So traditionally that is the way that wine is stored. Again, I'm going to show you some of the examples of wine storage and yeah, it's okay. You're keeping something for 6 months. It's really not going to make a massive difference. But actually, this is also the most efficient way to store wine because you can stack it. And we're going to be talking about the space that you need to store wine. There's also advice, don't shake wine. I'm not really clear what environment people are going to be storing wine where shaking it is an issue. So I'm guessing not on a trampoline. If you have a really springy floor, I would suggest you speak to a structural engineer about resolving that anyway. And probably don't store wine on it because it sounds like it's structurally unsound. Before we go any further, I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about when the wine storage is okay for some of the areas I'm going to go on to, which is effectively shelving, some kind of housing that can basically be in a cupboard in a corridor in the open, and when you need to invest in something that's a little bit more technologically advanced. And the answer to that is really simple. Look at how much you spent on wine last year. Just think about it, ballpark. The Christmas champagne, the lovely stuff for a party, whatever you got on your little gorgeous, jolly off to France. And then think about how much something like a wine fridge is. And I'm going to give a ballpark number. So I'm going to say something like £1,000, because next week when we talk about it, I'm going to show you from entry point fridges, which are much less than that, through to full scale cellars, which are much more than that. So I'm going to pick an average number, which is about £1,000. If that price point of whatever it is you're buying, the fridge, all the way through to that really fancy kind of glass-sided cellar, if that represents, the cost of that represents about 25% or less than what you spent on wine, then it's actually worth you having something like this. So using that example, if I spent £4,000 on wine last year, then actually it would be worth me investing £1,000, because this solution is going to last me for longer than just 1 year. So I use 1 year to think about it. If, however, you spent £100 on wine last year, then actually 25 quid, you're not going to get anything for that. Don't worry about it. The kind of storage I'm about to show you is absolutely fine. So we're going to start off talking about where the storage should be. So if we go over what we've thought about, we know that it needs to not be too hot. So that excludes kitchens, it excludes laundry rooms. Any of you that have got plant rooms, that's a room with, for example, a boiler, or if you've got any kind of air or heat source, heat exchangers, swimming pool plants. I don't know how fancy you guys are, but if you've got anything like that, those environments, that's going to be too hot for that. Ideally, we're looking at a space that hasn't got windows because we've got the heat fluctuation. So now we're starting to think about the spaces in our homes that exist outside of large formal rooms and outside of utility spaces. So what you'll often find, and I find this when I do building work for clients and we're looking to build in storage, is there's lots of spaces between spaces, corridors, inner hallways, that you'll find there's normally a nook or a corner or perhaps a column where you can fit something alongside it, which is actually an ideal place for you to store your wine. If you really, really, really are struggling, then a wardrobe can be a really good place to store wine, as long as it's not in a room that gets really exceptionally hot, so in a south-facing bedroom. Remember, this is a space you've somehow acquired this wine because you bought it in bulk, because it was good value, because it was gifted to you, because you came back from holiday. You don't need to have this accessible every minute of every day. This is storage in the same way that you need to store your skis or your golf clubs or your sex swing. I'm making no judgments on what you guys store in your homes. And when you need to have it, you can get it out and you can put it into your kitchen, you can put it into your bar, your display unit, whatever it is. So this is thinking about a space where we've got a stable temperature environment, the humidity is good, we haven't got lots of bright light, there's no vibration or bouncing. Again, still not entirely sure in a home what would be the case. We've got that consistency. That's what we're thinking about. And in actual fact, you will find everyone, there is a space that you can find it. The actual storage itself, I'm going to try and do some clever Insta stuff here, so bear with me. I managed to do this last week, but for some reason I'm questioning my own confidence and my own ability to do this. So this is a particular kind of storage that I love. These are clay pipes. They're available from reclamation yards, about £4, £5 each. What I love about these, you can stack them up and it's a completely stable environment, and they completely thermally regulate the space. They help retain it. So if there is temperature fluctuations within this clay environment, it stays consistent. the one thing I'd say about these is they're starting off, I've gone back to the beginning, these ones that are piled up here are like, as I said, £4, £5 from a recreation yard. You'll find them on eBay. You'll find them maybe, if you're lucky, at your builder's merchants. The market has realised that these are really, really good and attractive, and you'll start finding versions of them for like £100 each. So please, 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 before you go uber fancy, and bearing in mind, Queen of Construction, my advice is free, but my taste is expensive. In this situation, I'm actually saying, get the cheap one, because for what it's worth, I think it's lovely. And these are terracotta pipes. You can wash these in the sink before you put them into your home. They're really robust, they're really lovely. They're a really nice thing to have, and you can see they're absolutely fantastic. So that's one kind of storage that I would really encourage you to have. That storage is great if you perhaps either have the aesthetic in your home where that will work. So for example, if you have the industrial look, lots of exposed brickwork, that will go brilliantly. If I was in an ultra modern home, something that's very clean, I would love to use that material, but I would probably put it into a cupboard. Maybe have a piece of joinery around it, have some cupboard doors in front of it or something, so it's not so visible, because that might not be your look. But the function will work just as well, whether it's in a cupboard or not. I don't know, I just think that price point is really good. You've got sustainability because you're reusing materials, and you get to be super smug. When people come over and be like, oh my God, where'd you get that from? Reclamation yard, which I don't know why I find it really smug when you go to a reclamation yard, but I do. So there we go. So I'm now just going to show you some storage that's available from high street sellers. This kind of storage is also really good. They're basic shelves for storing wine. Generally, you'll see that the wine is stored on its side. Okay, I said basic, didn't I? Some of them are slightly more fancy, like this one. But generally it's stored on its side, it's timber, it's not going to take up a huge amount of space. Some of it's a bit bigger, some of it's a bit smaller. Most of these are modular pieces. There's stuff in here from IKEA, there's stuff in here from Amazon. This is absolutely easy and accessible. Again, if you don't like the look of it, don't worry, you can put it inside a cupboard. But if you think about the footprint of this is not much bigger than a shoebox in terms of depth away from the wall. And if you really want to know if it can fit, it's very simple. Take the bottle of wine, and I just happen to have here a bottle of George Set, which is a very, very nice bottle of wine, by the way, made by an excellent winemaker in Fonzac in Bordeaux. Sally, shout out to you. If you want to know if your wine storage is going to fit, you take your bottle of wine and you put it in the space you're thinking about storing it. Because wine storage is the size of a bottle of wine. Obviously, you do have to look at the width of it, but I'm just presuming you guys have got enough intelligence to do that, and I don't need to explain to you that. Although I explained to you putting a bottle of wine in the floor. So there we go. So yeah, there's various examples here. I'm now going to show you some things that I'm just going to put it out there that if you go online, you look at wine storage, you will see these examples, but I don't think they're good ways of storing wine. And as we go through it, I'm going to show you the reason why. So we're starting off. These are what I would more call wine displays rather than wine storage. Now, the reason I'm not happy about display is display says to me that you're going to put it in a room where you regularly are. And if you're regularly in that room, chances are that room is going to fluctuate in temperature. It's probably going to regularly go above 21 degrees. So I'm kind of feeling that in our criteria of what's good and what's bad, immediately these storage solutions are going to start getting into some of the bad. Anything that's got the kind of the bar associated with it, again, you're not going to put your bar in your corridor, in your cupboard, because it needs to be something that's functional and accessible all the time. So you're going to end up storing that in a space that's accessible. So for me, I think this is great. I understand people put this kind of stuff into show homes. I've built very, very fancy properties in London, and I've had these kind of things. I've had designers come in and put them in, and it's very lifestyle aspirational, but actually it's not technically brilliant. So I would veer away from this. If you want to display your wine, please join the Insta live next week. Schedule it. It'll also be on my Insta feed, because I will show you how to showcase your wine while also having it in an environment where the temperature is controlled, the humidity is controlled, the level of light is controlled, etc., and everything that we're talking about. I absolutely love if you guys can see Wendy's comment. She has very kindly shared the handle for the Chateau, for the wine that I just got out, which is Chateau George Sept. That's number 7, for those of you who don't speak French and I think the way I was pronouncing that wasn't brilliant either, so you probably wouldn't understand. And so that's it. That's part 1 of building your wine storage. If you have any questions for me in relation to that, please let me know. You can always DM me. If you are interested in wine, if you're watching this because you love wine, you love to consume wine, but you want to consider your health and your wellness around wine and the consumption of wine, because we all want wine to be part of our healthy best life, I absolutely fundamentally recommend that you look at my friend Wendy Narby's Instagram page, which is Drinking Woman's Diet. That's at Drinking Woman's Diet. She wrote a very successful, incredibly well-reviewed book on exactly that, the Drinking Woman's Diet. And she's just recently turned it into some online content, which enables you to almost chapter by chapter be talked through the process of how you get to appreciate wine. I'm a massive fan of this content because, as you can tell, I'm one of the people, I've invested in this because I think it's very important. I want to consume good wine, less good wine. That's my goal. That's what I want to have. I want it to be better, and I want to have less of it because I want to appreciate the quality of it. So I absolutely, please, I'm gonna put her link when this is live. I'll put the link in for her Instagram. You can DM me, you can DM her, because it's new content that's online. She's got an amazing offer, which is a discount code for the online learning. And as I said, I'm a signed up, paid up subscriber of how good it is. So if you're interested in this, design, build, lifestyle, it's all part of the same world. So thank you very much for taking part. Thank you for your comments and being part of this and sending me hearts and waves and all that kind of stuff. Please tune in next week because we are going to be talking tech. We're going to be seeing some freaking sexy sellers. And my advice would be definitely buy a lottery ticket, because some of these things are the cost of an average family house, but dear God, they are beautiful. And we'll talk about what you can steal for your own home if you want to have something that's a little bit more cost accessible. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining Ask Abby, questions for the Queen of Construction. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.